Er wat doorstuk gaan. Bal Ecosse Thompson. Hoe tegen het reizen, hoe alap nooit skippen heren. Er wat precies doen, achje. Dat ik jullie toch gitaar naar jaar naar een het is een game en ze hier het wil ik Thompson het al zag er alleen. Is Colin hem betalicht er en weer Louise Dalgalition is er Jinsuas gaan spelen. Colin Louise, thank you, welcome to the. Well, we've got the best seats in the house because there's no one else here.
Use that one as your mark.
It's a really strange atmosphere for the girls. They'll be wanting to make a much better start than they did against Ireland because, you know, for the first 15 minutes they were really under the cosh. It's hard to say if they've got the wind. The wind's swirling here at Scotstoun as well.
Yeah, they'll be very keen to make a good start. When France were here 2 years ago, the first half was actually particularly close. Scotland came out, they put a huge amount of pressure on the French game, and they really challenged them in defence, and I think we'll be looking for a similar start today.
Hier trekken we haar. Merk kwik, Lisa Thompson, die dat goed die kussen wel, als je dat eigenlijk skippen een vrije goal later. Dat de Giri vinder Ashken daar een aardje is een klaar is de Shia troegelen. Ach, alle het hier dat Giri vinder stjachen in game. Geloze zo dan ja, wat er zijn de jong dat het daar. Lana Skildon leis a chlocket. Is mwyn hwg blaen yn tor y farach i diw. Se hos afach Timmy Hill ar y farc. Hwg is y cyd ffennes y tolgus gyfen y ffrenge. Hwg is at annog afeg a chwrg gyda Pauline Bourdon. Ar o cael yn haid eisiau dych y gêm a chwrg gyda. Sarah Bonner. De Frankie gaat er Jorgen en Waal. Mooi goed niet wil. De jongens die gedaan voor Megan Gaffney. Maar wat Brian Eason ik er alleen het hier een half ik weer trang geduwd. Ik heb Pietje Hagres prijsig er aan aan. Kom ik het hier toch eens vastgelukkig zit. Sarah Cox, het is goed zijn. Well, a couple of good turnovers early on, Louise. So we heard Brian Eason was saying at the start of the game that the Scots defensive work's something they've been working on a lot, and their kicking game. It's going to be busy defensively today anyway.
Yeah, I think, you know, any game against France you're going to have to work hard in defence, but it was great to see the organisation there, the shape that Scotland were getting into, and not giving France any really easy options to get across that gain line and make any territory gain.
And not having played for so many months, it applies to both sides, but they'll just be so pleased to get their hands on the ball again.
Absolutely. I think, I mean, it's been so long for all the teams involved. We saw in Ireland and Italy's game last night, there was a lot of errors in that first 20. Whichever team, I think, settles into this game the best and can just find their momentum, find their phases, find the kind of attacking shape that they maybe want to play, we'll certainly see them go on and do well, I think.
You hold your weight as well, okay? Strong.
Sarah Cox. Minahu. Nee, Giri. Zo paars voor in de game. Het is alleen cool als je zie aan Sharks hoog staan we daar. Nu het is stressen als ze daar skippen. Ze willen daar skippen. Ik geloof Rachel Malcolm. Skipper ik al af ik Shia. Gail Hermé. Het was het voor hoog Shark. You is net fijn geproefd. Ik is het voor Nick Pennas. Ik is een juist skippen de Franke. Dat hij dat kan zacht teruggegaan. Dan gaan de lijnen gaan je units bij zijn. Well, there's no surprise they're going to go to the line probably as often as they can, I would think, Louise, but the scrums are going to be a huge part of this game, aren't they?
Yeah, I think the French scrummers are renowned for the power that they put through that, and I think the French front five are very experienced. They're a solid unit, they've played together a lot, so I'd expect to see quite a lot from them today.
Zo hier de jacht te gaan lappen. Pennas Elitien. Misschien kunnen Megan Kennedy en ik stay er doe jaar.
Number 3, straight on the side.
Toen is Jach van de glier hig. Is het de eerste?
You must come to the back foot. You went straight in at the side. Number 3. Number 3. the side, so you're going to come round to the back foot. I'll take that back. Nice.
Running in the game, I got terrible.
2 seconds. Let's stop screaming and shouting. Okay, in quicker. In quicker, please.
Shot at the end of the east. Ik aster kutje. San nur in tingal af door Shia, so is hier scoren, skippen de Franke. Die koik minute. Is die terug. Well, Louise, that was always on the cards when you see once they got the ball down at the line out, they had momentum and they just rolled forward. It's so difficult to stop this, isn't it? We're seeing it in all the games just now.
Absolutely, Hugh. I mean, legally, it's virtually impossible if I drive a maul and keeps moving like that, especially with the experience, as we've spoken about in that French pack. They're going to get in the right position, and it is kind of Scotland need to think about how they can stop the set of the maul before they get started, and maybe try and combat that. But anything in their own kind of 5 metre line, the French will be looking to do that if they can.
We'll talk about this in more detail later because it is something affecting all the games we're seeing just now. Caramilla Kata ik Tremulier is een malische vrouw. Galagilish, die dat zo heb gezegd. Zijn er vanaf kinderen Kata is een kooi poingachke hier het score. It's worth looking at it again because you said yourself it's virtually impossible to stop this unless you put 15 people against it. You can't bring it down.
No, and I think actually Scotland, looking at that again, Scotland gets set in behind it quite quickly, but the speed that France have got organised there and have got that leg drive going, as soon as that's going forward, it's just very, very difficult to defend behind that.
Well, Merachkwik zit van Ryan Gustiedig. We vinden de vlakkig in het al Timmy geloren. Je had de schurpe nulls en al daar huuf. Pennas ik al op een shot. Close shot, Suez in de vaark. Karamagal, Suez genossen. Maar ik kun niet tal woon dus ik heb een hele koerstige. Van short terras aan, als je het goed. Well, it's all about making field position work, isn't it? This is a good chance for Scotland to do something.
Yeah, ideal response. They've obviously a French error there, unforced, but it's given Scotland the opportunity, and really important that we see what Scotland can do and that they manage these pressure situations in the attacking 22 well.
De hier het jaar in je Jan hebben niet de kan maar geheen in alle tijd. Gamal Irelaar is een echt een mag en een Jan go Thompson. Penazele te gaan lappen. Konkel het al Shears. No shot. Dus vier jaar Shears go kooit meters. Ik Norinjev came de fijnge rukkers, legit jaren rukkers. Dan hoek het de bal klaar, twee achtje. Schijne Frankie Schachter. Schachter de wil nog wat vast nog. Skiploch hoe ik goed. Konko. Goede cool in de geval. Ach, dat Schachter de eerst. Well, that's twice Megan Kennedy's been pinged for the same thing. It's a very fine line though, isn't it? You just have to come in from the back.
Absolutely, and we've seen that picked up on a range of competitions across the world. More recently, the directive to the match officials, and I think it's up to the players. There's now been quite clearly been penalised for that twice. It's up to them to adjust and make sure they do something different, so that doesn't become a recurring theme through the game.
The big thing is, as long as it's consistent, they know it's there. They just have to adjust their play to it.
Yeah, I think Sarah Cox has made that quite clear now. There can't be excuses for that continuing to happen.
Ijn, ik ga wel in de Frankie gedaan. Ik is Hanneke Golana Skelden. Ik ben hartstikke hier het vast is het daar in de pas niet gedaan. Kan ik al verklozen. Frankie Groepik Tanner in Jemmel zo. Dan gaat er het in skater is. Harry McDonald gahur amach. De halfenig gahumel irdu seo hi is fóin Megan Gaffney dolas day. Frangich Lua Chinsuas. Gagluas at gesnok attack gahumel het al. Kennedy the eerste is Penasilla. Stoget hij dat naar maar die gewoon al gezien. Maybe just a bit far out for a shot at goal from here. Well, they're going to give it a go in the conditions. You see the flags are all over the place here.
Yeah, it's bang in front, I think, at this point in a game. They want to just, and that's very much within Helen Nelson's range.
Get on the board.
So I think absolutely put points on the board at this point.
Una minute Juk. I think if anything, she's got the wind in her favour. If anything, it's picked up just a bit. There's a wee shower again.
Yeah, it does, as you say, it keeps swirling about, and it looks like the rain is coming in a little bit. It was definitely forecast, but I thought we might avoid it. But you know, both teams have to face that. So hopefully, the kind of Helen can time the kick well and make sure a bit of wind behind it, make sure it gets the distance.
Wel, ook het je wil je gaan. Het is een daar vlak, er gaat wel maar. Het is bij Pies maar zeggen er kutje. Maar bekken er vanaf goed goed is. Je gaat zenden al op goed getal. Al op is 3. De Frankie Koik. She had something extra left over. That cleared by quite. That's giving them confidence too. You know, they can score from that distance.
Absolutely. I think we talk about the conversion rates when you get into the opposition 22, and Scotland have spent a bit of time in the 22, got the penalty, made the correct decision in terms of taking those points.
Al op 3. Frankie Koik. Dus er je met de bal had koeren mag lezen. Het gaan 3 finishen wanneer ik er al Klag u de kuie nest, het de vanja goed willen u achten. Twee Moulier. Stjach ku Abadi, ik het dich. Dus de Frank, ik zullen me de koers dat u skippen, het was karm gaan het vliegen erin naar heel. Hier we vlieg. They made a couple of, well, more than a couple, 4 changes I make it from the team they would have fielded on the 6th of March if this game had gone ahead. Do you think there's kind of more of a rotation going on? But it does show the strength and depth they've got. They've got 4 class players on the bench there that they can bring on any time.
Absolutely, and I think there's players that have been returning from longer term injuries. There's players that have come into the squad that are taking out their chances. So I think one thing that we're now seeing in Scotland is there is a lot more competition in certain positions and really building that depth, and there's no question that we'll need that as we go into a period of important games coming up.
Gasterenisht, zo is hem aan. Even de halver willen een coachje in de bal, hoe is het? Het gaan half en ik. Oh, Chloe Rowley het al gaan naar is het. Maar ik ga nog een keer. Thijs keer een live glee. Megan Gaffney. Het ging gelukkig naar hoe ik krijg maar is het. Dan gaat hij eerst naar hoe ik al aan kan maar. Die is. Now somebody somewhere is noting the number of penalties going in from the side. That's at least 3 Scotland have conceded.
Yeah, I think that will get looked at, and it's small margins as we spoke about earlier there. I mean, I think if you get the kind of the 45 degrees and you kind of get your hips round and you look like you're coming in from square, but unfortunately Rach McLaughlin there is just, she's right from the wrong side and straight in at the side, so I've warranted penalty.
Zo'n chance aan de Frankie. Je gaat altijd in een klim aan boven de garage. Je zal alleen het hier in de oorlog het in zoals vastgepeld. Schuut er Frankie zo. Via gaan kunnen je wel. Neste kan ik al even tien daar. Drut Croate de Orsken Frangi. Toch de Thomas achter de Gui haast. Klaag kunnen Gui. Ach, 4 meter gewoon er vallen voor Tremuria. Eilak Weknere, Galawi. Alafeke Hilig. Mari. Johan lag de klaagkeuze zit daar heen.
Okay, wait.
Hier zit alles aan Megan Kennedy.
Okay, balls here. Let it go.
Karstel de hoor schachet ten is 3 koik. Van een Frangach.
Wait.
De eerste 4 en die. Keuren en het halve wuniklische gui. Tremulier. Ach, de eerste jongens zien me aan de parken. Well, the line speed's good. That's one thing they've been working on. That you can tell the Scottish team.
Yeah, I think when I kind of watched Scotland, the Japan game actually back here last year. Sometimes their kicking game, the kicks were there, but their chase maybe wasn't as organised. What we've seen on the 2 exit plays there from Helen Nelson's kicks is that the defensive line's pushed up. They've been organised. There's not gaps, and to stop a player like Jessie Tremillier at 15 for France, I think it's important that he keep doing that.
Ben vergen de ruimte again en mich Brian is en ik tosje gegeven. Ik weet wat de win is vastgelig hier, maar hij had de prepe gewoel ervan af.
Bind. Set.
Konkelke hokkele maag. Dit maul is het. Frankike schisse verraas, jullie kan lood in orde. Skelden. Is een klokken te jou. Zo, de leentje karame zo. Jisk ze weer Hannah Smith via gaan trappen. De niet 10 meters zit gemaakt, maar zachter. Die nog maar een gloersje.
Just hold on to that one.
Skipper, Richard Malcolm nog eens aan. Ik heb gehoord dat ik geskippeld de alap uit die nog gekomen krijgen, maar zijn de route.
Back again.
Dan hoor ik hem toegeraan zit. De Frank is die nog kan goemal verwelat. En je laat kan je kan magische ruim joggen de vaart.
Stand on feet, 9, please use the ball.
En je de mest. Ze die eerst jammer de Levi voor Robale Dalske voor de machen een live play. Oh, sprakele. Die nog een jaarste loze ik Bernardo. Alaffen. Versturen merk kunnen je Nesta kan hem achter roeien ta. Dan ik die Bjarne zit.
No advantage there. Please be very careful the angle you come in at. Okay? We'll go back for the knock on.
It's breathless stuff, isn't it? It's quite a strange atmosphere. I know we're all commenting on it all the time, but you can hear everything that's going on out there. Every contact, the bangs, it's just a completely different atmosphere.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say we all heard that when the French tight head getting through that there. Great piece of play by her, but Scotland, Jade putting brilliant pressure on through the middle of the ruck there and again forcing the error from France. So Scotland have got to keep pushing hard, keep believing in that defensive system and that setup that they've got and keep putting France under pressure.
Well, France have conceded 3 handling errors. That's almost like 3 mini scores to Scotland because they've made them do that.
Yeah, I think we know that kind of both teams coming in after such a long absence, things like the timing of the runs, the support lines might not be quite right. It'll take them a bit of time to find that, and the longer that Scotland can force those errors from France, then the more that'll give Scotland a foothold in the game.
Just both your feet have gone. Both sides. Yeah, no worries. Feet underneath. Feet underneath. Feet underneath, please.
Feet at minute, Shahid. 20 minutes in, Louise. 3-5. That's not a bad position to be in at the moment.
Absolutely, there's been some really good spells for Scotland in the attacking half. They've put multi-phases together. One thing I'd say, they are getting put under pressure in that contact area. Even when they've won the initial contact or the initial ruck, there's a bit of a counter ruck, so that Mary McDonald's been under pressure a few times at the back. We really need to look after her in that position.
Oh, Penna's going to Frankie get that.
Collapse straight underneath. This side, collapse and on straight underneath. Let go, please, Jane.
The French technique, you can see the type of scrum they've got. It's physically very powerful, but their technique is exemplary, isn't it? They're so together.
Yeah, I kind of mentioned the experience of the front five. Actually, I was neglecting the fact that they're tight heads on their first cap today. But
yeah.
The experience, I think, you look at the second row and the other kind of Arakastra and Sosha in the front row. They have been there for a long time, and it just that cohesion. You can see that as a unit. They're getting great height, and again that power coming through will be very difficult for Scotland to live with.
And the fact that going for the points here, they want to get something on the board themselves, so that there would have been a feeling they would go down the line again, but no, they're wanting to take the points.
Yep, I think that's probably testament to the defensive pressure that Scotland have been able to put on. They have forced some errors. They maybe just want to take a bit of heat out of the game at the moment, take that control, and hopefully they'll see this as a 3 points that they wouldn't want to turn down.
Tremoulier, zonnig til is bra, ik maar hoors meer. Wel, wij zeggen, is een sport. Haroi kallig voelje horschachet naar Hyundai. Hockey die zweitiane was. 3 point gille. De skipper de Franke maatje, maar wel Louise Graap. Ik het de horsdag in is. De point echtere. Dus Shenmara haadje. Daar wie het harikit. Alla Petri naar Frankie a hoog. Toch is toch een drukke hang voor de villa op een klootjes af haar. Ik had pikken doen. Dan van je gaat pikken. Dan staat je zo als gewoon online vliegen. Hoort er is je volle tunje. Is die nog stijlig. Tremoulier. Hij die nog gewoon nog kan het ook rijlies. Kijk zit er van wacht die nog geworden met hekje. Zij verschoofde maar hij klootje gevoel. Kom zoelen. Jewe kaartje villa op is kaartje wil het. Kaartje willen naar Jun zie je het hier de Frankie. Wel, en dan is er nu een naastje Dalk. Well, the French falling foul of it as well. So
no, absolutely.
It's very consistent, the referee. You have to say it's pinging it every time, so they know. They should know by now.
Absolutely. I think Sarah Cox is an experienced match official. She will be consistent. There's clear messages that are being given to the players. The players need to listen to that, and they need to adjust their behaviours, their choices accordingly.
McAdee, so it's been feet meter. Just the one doubt about the whole thing, you know, the possession's really good from Scotland, but they've been playing in the wrong area. They're too far to our right, to put it at its simplest. This is where we want them to be.
Absolutely, and I think we've seen that even from the exit plays. We've been trying to kind of keep France back in their own half and work that possession, work the territory, work up the field. This is a good attacking spot for Scotland. We need to it'll be interesting to see where they want to play from here, what areas of the pitch they now choose to attack.
Die eerst mag ik loinen. Boa zoals die eerst naar Frankie. Peroni. En ik steeg al Boa. Hij zag ook wel komers als Hannah Smith. Met het als rooms een beetje. Door Rachel Shankland cut hem haast. Nee, hij heeft een stijg en een lijn geschokt. Hij heeft een nul van de willen. Zo in is er wel. Hier voor hem is. Hier, tuurlijk is het hij voerig als if je aan. Hij schuldig begonnen of een 4 geen laven in de bal met Kennedy. Later. Shanklin de neste de goal 0 gaan je miller de hou. Fasten je ja, dus ze skippen naar fijn de bal om achter de daar huif. Rachel McLaughlin, George Stay, Dish, Kitchen Cheers en Este de Jist. Zit er vlug er in de Frank Gergel Cheers. Had in een count, dus heb je aan. Peroni, er kost toch uren door hou. De geschoffer de viag al op het draaste. Maar voor je gezet, je wil touw lang. Koeman Suul had haast de kopper. Peroni hou, de hou. Hier is hij moeilijk gescreen. Dan Henk wil hij. Poelien met een gang, dan is we nu. Al op een haast kan Koeman zijn kopper die gelukkig warok. Tolk ze broeg. Maar die gaan nog 5 kind met Björn Wick en hit. Ach, die is.
It's holding and your entry. That's twice. Number 1 has entry.
Leah Bartlett in
Right, let's go.
You get the feeling there's only a matter of time. She can't keep warning them, can she? I mean, that's twice she's pinged. She told Leah Bartlett there, and that's twice.
Yeah, I think we've spoken about it already. The players have had the message they need to change what they're doing, otherwise it won't be long until Sarah Cox has no option but to consider yellow cards for multiple infringements.
The French did really well there to cover the fact that Morgane Peroni had been down for a good couple of minutes. The centre there, just the way they strung themselves out across, they're defensively very good, very organised, aren't they?
Yeah, and they managed that. They didn't overcommit in the defensive breakdown. They were putting in enough players to actually to stop Scotland, to slow their ball down slightly, but not actually having to overcommit in there. And I think we saw the benefit of Scotland's phase play there when they were just getting over that gain line or getting that half gap. And when their ball was a bit quicker, they were able to put France under more pressure. So that would be a focus for them as they continue in the game.
Geaarst gaat alleen in de geloine. Prisjuk trein, keer Giek, Cyril Bane, keer treis maar haas en Arpeshop. Blielne. Het koelers toch, is een goede meer aan het vliegtuigje. Kijk daar aan, moet pik. Moet je samen de hoekje ziet voor broken. Ja, en die Koeman Suez, maar hij dacht de Koeman van een laar, toen je gaat de bal lag hoor, het zie je meer in hou. Dus de Frankie zit hier in korm. Voers gelukkig hem, wie meer te kursieus. Bane kent Koemers toch. Nest had de skuur, het vjugne paarke. Ik is een kamer zitten door hou. Oh, schrijf niet boefter als je. Brilliantly worked play, you have to say. Just the execution, the final. Maybe just the wind again over there. Yeah. So exposed over in that corner, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think, to be honest, it was the right decision. You could see that the Scotland defence had to be pulled in. They'd condensed slightly, and France were able to spot that and put it in the right place. I think a clean take on that wing would have been putting ourselves under real pressure.
I think
there.
This is the injury. The previous injury has just overtaken.
Yeah, no problem, mate. They're just sending the message across.
Peroni, I think it's because the doctor intervened there, and I think he's seen enough to think that she should come off, and that's a good decision. So they're going to make a substitution there, and here's one of the players, Louise, who was in the team on the 6th of March, Camille Boudot. This is not weakening the team in any sense.
No, I think the French, because of the depth that they've been building up, and the return of some of their sevens players as well, you look at the bench and player that's coming on just now, but also, you know, Marjorie Mayans and Linnae Corson, they are very experienced. They've been on the sevens circuit for quite some time, very dynamic players. So I think if and when France make changes, I don't think that will weaken what they can offer on the pitch.
Yeah, no,
We haven't had a chance to speak about Rachel Shankland. She's had a couple of interventions there laterally. You could see she drifted into the middle, coming looking for work, which is a fantastic sign in any winger in the modern day. They've got to do that, but she made an instant impression. If they could get her more on the ball.
Yeah, I think we speak about it, and with Rachel's physicality and her power, they will want, and they'll be setting plays up that they can make sure. You know, she was gaining ground when she made a line break down here, just in front of us in the French half slightly earlier. And I think it's really important for her confidence to get her on the ball, allow her to break those tackles and get us over the gain line the way that we know she's capable of.
So we're just about to hit the half hour. Over the piece, there's been some really good things. Both teams have obviously they've not played, so they're not at their best, but they're producing a decent contest here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think just looking at, you know, we knew there was going to be errors because the teams have not played under any kind of pressure for such a long time. I think for me, Scotland, I'd really like to see them just make that bit accuracy in the breakdown better. So A, getting rid of the penalties, but B, just trying to make that ball a bit cleaner and maybe moving it slightly faster so that Mary McDonald's not getting that counter ruck and that pressure that she's currently getting from the French forwards.
Alla på 3, med Frangi og Hawk. Kjemmer det ligger. Så hedelig. In a game show, a cord, tackers is a marst. Så jeg tar ikke strett i game ikke nå, så kutter meg. Men jeg holder to ikke drastisk, game ikke gjerne vi gjør på. Jeg tar ikke to, penasille et igjen, til galappe.
No, drop back, you need to be behind.
Daarachter you kan då Karamele in. Kafak te weer aan af de kloeie game ik naast de recht heen. Dat gemakkelijk. Die na Isaac in wil. Aster is fjögs given a Frank. Har je de ving naar ik. Nu gaan igen een mission met haar naar ik het dit. You have to say the athleticism of the French line-out is spectacular. I have to say that their locks, Diallo, Ndai, they are fantastic jumpers.
Yeah, absolutely. Safi and Ndai as well, has formerly played a lot of her rugby in the back row for France. She used to play 8 quite regularly, so brings that athleticism into the second row, and yeah, both players very dangerous in the line-out and around the park.
Olympic Aster en is tuned out. It just come back. Really good first. One of Frankie reached at the line. They should get keen. Just a pen as a team to go up. It's Gashin. Lynn Nelson, if you hand his line, if he should get that. Skeldon. He's a Curamach has. Hannah Smith can lose it. Emma Vassell. Truer het alles dat je goede toeren ze kan laten met morgen. Ilach weekach getallen zijn. Nu is hij kopen de draadstation hij vaker toen je gemoeid zijn lijn je hier stay met een goal. Maar zo naar de Vries is dat. Rachel McLachlan het al klaar. Pressure train, plastic train. Dus dat klopt er in de vanaf gegaan voor zo. Hannah Smith. Schacht, 4 meter. Het weet me al, een pen als het hier in. National kan gloeien ze dat karren mag gevoerd. Die had komen het al gedaan. Ze bijna zijn ze hierheen. McLachlan. Well, Nicky Long got him. She gave them the chance, and there is a tendency nowadays for referees to play longer advantages, so they have to keep playing. It's worth the shot. They know the penalty's there, and again they're within range. Would you take the crack at the posts?
I think given, yeah, similar range to last time, absolutely. Great opportunity for Helen to take another 3 points. Looks like they're going for the line out, though.
Yeah.
I probably would have taken the tap and go myself, so yeah, I think, yeah, putting it in the corner, good decision, give them the opportunity again to execute those line-outs under a little bit of pressure.
You know what, if you get a try here, that is a great decision.
Always.
Conor Maha gallop and Maha. Oh, John Jeffries. Goelie Maha. Clean again, cool mask. Going to course the issues get a lot fewer rapper. Is dat Koramachke? Goed pikken het halen gedaan. En van de Frank naar Muske ze wat. Tinko Klee, Skelden. Dit er een pust. Via gaan de duellen. Tahegille. Line tien kematje, dan ga ik de Frankie. Had er korpit dan hen vier gaan. Die gaat de worst. Hanna Smith kan je maar genesko shankelen. Oef. Ik kunnen maar zitten er met hier. Saveltje kan je oorzullen mee. Alright, er pass. Refs just picked up that pass there, was slightly just forward. I think maybe even in the tackle it made her do it in a way.
Yeah, and to be honest, I think coming back to the line out, what's good about this, Scotland are executing line outs when they're, you know, they're in the attacking 5 metre area. That's a high pressure situation, and somewhere that maybe Scotland have had slight issues in the past through either confidence or errors creeping in at that point. So, you know, they won possession, they kept the hold of the ball, played some nice phases, and yeah, kind of Hannah Smith had to try for the offload there and just drifted slightly forward.
Only once I think they've been under real pressure in the scrum, and you know the French would have been looking to have a bit more domination, I would have thought, at this stage in the scrum.
Yeah, I think it's certainly an area that they would pride themselves on generally, and they would still want to kind of exert as much pressure. I think depending on where they are in the park, there are times where they might be looking to win a penalty, there are times where they might just want quick ball out of it, and there are times where they're just trying to offer a stable platform. So I'd say they probably do still have the upper hand at this stage, so see how this one goes.
Frankie Stolkari, what a cool. En Tremulier is zien gaan lijnen, Joey. Het is toch nog een schieten route politie, jongen, hier hartste glooi rollen. Zijn je kale de Harrische, hoe ze wie via gaan hier. En dus de lijn is dieren gegaan, is die aan heb. Ga je skeld, dan is een jeremester schiet, dan ga je klaar discussie. En we zien hoe kaum kuchen. Die dat maar een die gelachtie bal 5. It's a big 3 minutes to come here, isn't it, Louise?
Yeah, I mean, we say it all the time in commentary, but it's a crucial point of the game. You know, it can drastically change the mood going into the changing rooms. It can really influence what the coach's messages might be. So I think, you know, France getting back down towards that Scotland 22. Scotland need to go back to that mindset they had in the initial defensive sets in the first few minutes, just making sure they get all their organisation right, they make their tackles, and they don't give France any straightforward opportunities to break that line.
4 goed mag maken, zien al op de show. Gevia had in de Frankie gekomen, 4 meter maken, zo'n 3 minuten. Bijna ze 10, en het middag is een lijnje. Next hit, and we giving us Gevia Frankie, she has a line to do the shot. Surely they're going to go down the line, are they? There's Tremuri is going over though. What do you think?
I would expect them to put it in the corner again here. Get with as close to the Scottish try line as they can, and again try to get that rolling maul moving.
So this is a big, it's a perfect tactic from France. It's a big defensive set to come here.
Yeah, we spoke about it earlier. Scotland actually the previous rolling ball that France scored from. They got organised behind it quickly. It's whether they can just time it to either get a hit on to stop that France initial movement and then just try and hold on, or disrupt the ball elsewhere.
Zo, dan is de James Lieke de Magebal, Torne skippelt en we smeren nu. Gianne gaat. Koik met haar mooi. Davi netje raken en de sluwen als jen. Oh, de haast trang, die aan de lijn als jen koik met haar maag. Balen maag. Alla perihun dat het daar. Alla perihun dat zeer naar boven. Er een. Dus je roet dat kutter mag je Gianne, hè?
The ball is here.
Kwaliteit. Tremuliere die ist. Nesta Björn dan de Jos al op een kartenne. Reina te hier het vaarstje. En geen eerste de Frankrijk tillig. Er is dat Wunik. Merach killen. Well, they've done two great things there. The first one was the turnover. Fantastic piece of work by Sarah Bonar, and then forcing this error here again.
Yeah, I mean, just again that pressure, they're getting up in France's faces. It's putting a little bit of additional pressure on those players closer in. Great turnover by Sarah Bonner, just identifying that ball was out and managing with her height and her kind of reach to get across there and get two hands on the ball and get it back on the Scotland side.
I suppose if there was, look at that handling error score, 7-1. I mean, that's something you put in the diary.
Absolutely, and I think, as I said, watching Ireland-Italy last night, France are not a team. They're not a team that you would necessarily expect to see that many handling errors from. It's testament to Scotland that they're putting a bit of pressure on. Some of them have maybe been less forced and probably see things starting to click the longer the game goes into the second half. But Scotland need to just keep capitalising on that and taking advantage of those errors and getting back out into the right areas of the park.
They just need to get this and hoof it. Get it off the park. Gloch get a goal, Jarak. Jeep Konkel, Kahumal Katas, Kahumal at all.
Your time, Cox. You got
And
time.
Gloch Jarak, is Isaac. Isaac get a shen. Is at the tin of Keen, Jach, Gidigabal, Mach. Is Vakar Makarui, Ach, Joyshen. Fiat Rier is Jekyll, at the Lostay, Haninse, Ektri, Gohoch, Gekliher Schlie. En je naar ze bij Gentjum had je dat nu score favor en Frankach is aan de centrale game en je koik minetje en shop maar haashin maar voor die alle bevineren van Ria is je geblet dat is stay ik lig slie alle petri de Frankich hoog wel Beatrice Ritje is bij overachke toen wat de koel kan de watje de Frankich was zijn ulke leer.
Well, sin ac le úne agus apar game go matchaun agus go ma farpiseach. Ach inis hasin go bhí cleintin bó coach úd ag skipin na habla bes coach itaramal Brian Eason.
Brian, you've been involved with the women's team for a couple of years.
Yeah.
With Shade and then Philip. You're now interim head coach. What are your thoughts going into this crucial few months?
Is it a crucial few months or is it an opportunity? That's the way I look at it for everyone. And it's not an opportunity for me at all. It's an opportunity for the girls. An opportunity to play, 2 games against France and against Wales over the next couple of weeks, but then an opportunity to have a little bit of pressure to go into World Cup qualifiers. But as I'm going to present to these girls tonight, pressure is a bit of a privilege because the fact that they've got the pressure to go to World Cup qualifier means they're actually doing something right. They're in the squad, so they should be privileged to go forward and have a go at these World Cup qualifiers. So for me, it's a good opportunity for them just to show how good they are.
But for you, there is now a greater responsibility. There's a different role. How are you feeling about it?
chilled, relaxed. I think it's important that if I'm relaxed and chilled and well planned and prepared, that it helps the players, it allows them to be fresh, clear, confident and calm in the way that they are. So I don't look at it as pressure for myself at all. I think that if I can organise a good management team around us with a good framework and the way that we want the girls to play, I think it allows them just to start to express themselves. So I don't look at it as the pressure for me. The only pressure I would put on myself is just to allow them to be able to go out and express themselves.
You talk about the pressure coming down the line for the team. How strange does it feel to be talking that Six Nations games are in effect preparation games?
Yeah, I know what you're saying about that. Is that a preparation? It is a preparation for the World Cup qualifier. Let's not kid ourselves. It's all about being ready for the 6th of December against Italy. That's what it's all about. To play France, to look at playing France and to play Wales as a warm-up to get ready for these games it's not disrespectful to these countries, and it's not disrespectful to Scotland. We want to win for Scotland every time we play for Scotland, but we are building up to a World Cup qualifier. So we'll use these games as a little bit of a stepping stone and to see where we are. We've not played since the 10th of February. To not play a game since the 10th of February and then play against France is a challenge in itself. But to look at that as being something that can be a good stepping stone towards playing against Italy, I think it's a positive thing. It's strange to be playing Six Nations at this time of year. It feels strange, but it's nice to be back.
How has the spirit been since the team has come back together?
It's been excellent. It's really been good. I've really enjoyed the spirit and I've really enjoyed the kind of camaraderie. I think coming back, a lot of them have been on their own, whether it be in the houses or flats or whatever. They've been on their own, and it's been back to having a team again. It's been excellent. It's been really good. There's been a lot of good work that's gone on behind the scenes with, Gemma Faye's done an awful lot of work in behind the scenes in terms of the COVID work. As you probably saw with this training today, all in masks and snoods and just allowing us to get to this situation. But the fact that we're able to have these weekends and the fact that we're able to be here with a fully fit squad and all happy and all ready to play is testament to everybody, to be honest.
What's your philosophy on how you want to go about this role, which is in effect trying to get qualification for the World Cup? In terms of seeing so many smiling faces out there, why is that important?
I think when you're happy in what you do, you'll perform. And that should be in any walk of life. As if you're forced to do something, or you're a bit robotic, or you're doing something because you're told to do something is a difficult thing. Whereas, so my philosophy as a coach is to give a framework on this is how we want to try and play. This is an idea of what the framework should look like. However, if you see something, if you see space, if you feel happy trying something, but you can justify it, have a go.
How then do you balance the fun element, the enjoyment element, with the hard work that needs to be done?
We've worked very hard over the last few sessions, and so we've got a lot of hard work, experts in detail, and relentlessness are words that we're using all the time. So hard, you can't play and you can't enjoy playing unless you work hard. You have to work hard to get into position in attack. You have to work hard in position in defence. You have to work hard on your detail, knowing what your role is of certain things. You can't play off script unless you've worked hard and seen what the opposition are doing. So if you can't see it, you can't say it, you can't do it. So there's obviously a lot of work that you've got to do to be able to enjoy yourself to play, because if you're not performing or if you're not doing what you should be able to do, that's when the enjoyment goes. So a lot of coaching for me is to aid the process on this is what we should be doing, but go and enjoy it because of the work that you've done in behind the scenes.
There seems to be quite a lot of focus as well, from your point of view, on player-led sessions and the players' involvement in these sessions being paramount.
Yeah, because they play the game. You don't have coaches on the sidelines shouting what to do if they don't understand what they're trying to do, because things happen in games that coaches can't control. We can control what happens, I suppose, on the training field. We can help to plan and we can do analysis. We can give as much information as possible. But until you get on the field, things will then happen. So it's up to the players to then have the leadership skills to be able to change things on the field. I think for coaches to be shouting and telling players what to do all the time, my job is to actually help players how to make decisions on the field, not telling them what to do. So it's giving them, I suppose, scenarios in training to help them make decisions. So when it's on the field, it just comes. It just happens. It's second nature. And if it doesn't happen, they fix it. After the game, obviously, we can talk and we can analyse and we can try and do things again. But I think it's important that these players feel, I suppose, feel that they can just go and do what they want to do on the field. So there's a little bit, there's give and take. I'm certainly not an autocrat. I'd be more empowering as a coach. There is a little bit of, look, we need to do this in these areas because. However, you can fix these things as well yourselves.
How much do you recognise the girls' focus and determination to achieve the target, which is World Cup qualification?
It's a huge target for them. A lot of these girls have played rugby for a long time. Many rugby playing at school, and that's probably what everybody wants to do, is playing a World Cup. But to play in a World Cup in New Zealand as well it's a one-off to get on that flight. And we're not hiding the fact that we want to go to the World Cup. So they'll get to the hotel tonight. There'll be big pictures of the World Cup in the hotel, because that's what the target is. There's no point shying away from what the target is. And I think sometimes we just, let's not talk about that. Let's not worry about that. Let's, as I said at the start, let's enjoy the challenge. Let's enjoy the pressure and remember it's a privilege.
Finally, what do you think World Cup qualification would do for the game in this country, for the women's game in this country?
Oh, it would be massive for this country and for the women's game in the country, because I think at the moment, it's been difficult for sport, full stop. For men's sport, for women's sport, there's not been an awful lot on. But to start up again, to have these 2 games for the Six Nations, then to go into World Cup qualifiers, to have the excellent coverage from Alba has been, that helps. And obviously when we start putting in performances that we're hoping to put in, we'll obviously grow the game. But to qualify for a World Cup and go to New Zealand and to play against the top teams in the world, for any young girl, looking at these role models out there, and there's a lot of good role models, it will grow the game hugely. And that's what we want to do. It's not just about now, it's about the future. It's about the future of the game, and having the new characters coming in and putting them under a little bit of pressure, and hopefully they'll be the next group that come in for the World Cup. But it would be a huge step forward for Scottish rugby.
Wel, biach yn un dyn ach sit van de goedje eter amal hakin Brian Eason agus chanimit gebel Brian Eason. Gemarrier is de lecution maar ha te draas de 3 gehoog aan de favor de Frank Columns ha Louise Dalglish we come Suler Cusion. Interesting views there from Brian Eason, the interim coach. He knew the team. Must have been pretty easy to pick the team in some ways because it's a settled team now, but you can see some hints of improvement here in ball retention. Yeah, just need a bit more territory, that's the thing.
Yeah, I think from what we've seen, there's huge positives in a number of aspects of the Scotland game at the moment. I think one thing I'm really pleased with is, as I've mentioned, that the executing the set piece and executing in certain areas of the pitch where we really need to be better. But what I think the possession's been good, but quite often has been quite slow ball. We need to be able to speed that up, and that comes from whether that's the support players being a little bit quicker and making sure that ruck's cleared, or whether we try and play a bit wider.
Well, let's have a quick look at the only try of the match came early. We were worried, concerned that Scotland wouldn't get off to a good start. There was a potential here for trouble. Very difficult to defend that, but it didn't repeat itself. They didn't do this often, the French team.
No, and I think testament to Scotland, but France dominated the scrum to win that penalty. They then kicked it to the corner. It's a simple game plan when they've got the powerful pack that they have, but they've not been in the right places to do that too often so far. So if Scotland can keep them away from their 22, keep them in their own half, then the chances of Scotland doing well going into the second half are much improved.
Briefly, a score or two would be good.
Love to see that, yeah.
Darna Leitin, Maha Balak na Frangi, Shomra Haik, Leha Shlia, 3 gehoog aan de favor na Frangi. Alap gelijk aan de Gorau, gelijk van de live Klee. Wel, ik Jesse Tremoulier. Gaan we kooitje, kun je game getal. Maar hier waar voedig hij chiden met die is gevorst nog en je toch alles ziet je daar ook te kunnen deveneren zijn. Er is Timmy veel verweltje dan gaan te deveneren glas komen als biologer en de skier Scotsen. Dus een klachtje geloof die plenig in de chin steven voor star maar ze jagen en jullie zal aan en de senators de kuzen kamasa wacht Timmy gelord.
Just double checking. Two seconds as to who it came off.
De rechter
a white hand. So it's a knock on, so they've got the option. Yeah?
Jarabuki Hager, Sarah Cox.
Okay. Right, you got a knock on. What do you want? You can either have the scrum or the line out. You take line out? Okay,
That's an interesting choice in itself, isn't it, Louise? They're confident enough, Scotland, to take the line out as a choice.
Absolutely, I think. But again, in that area where if they're on their own possession, France would have all 8 players driving against them in a scrum. So actually, as much as the line out could go either potentially as more risk, I think it was probably the right decision. It just unfortunately hasn't quite been executed.
Hier toeristogen, hij kozen pullig kjare ke line, John Harvey kopper kleef af van de hier shot. Het via die kumale in last, nog een eerste bal achtje. Diallo. Frank, via de keer je stampen goed in de game. Ze hier het allemaal. Hoe dat scoren, ze via het groot minuutje in de game. Ze via de keer is en die ene die is. Is het geskuurlijk gemaakt. Gaat er Diallo, is Daya, als die mag. Ach, ik kan niet meer een eerste oog. Je ziet dat er hoog zijn laten die is. Er goemale mag. Well, it's another 4 sterren. You can see how they're bringing the number 15 Tremoulier. She's coming into the game all the time now, isn't she? Keen to get the ball.
Yeah, she's an excellent player. She'll pick her lines really well from fullback. I think France probably be disappointed with the handling error in that corner. Just a little bit of indecision, maybe a bit late committing to that offload, and then it dropped in front of Tremoulier there.
Misschien is gemene hit ik al op dat in je huren voor de glas aan de go.
Bind. Set.
Frankie geproefd offener. Zijn al afgekleven. Ziet de skippelig uit. Te haar in je maag. Ja, niet die dat pikken te waren groen en Helen Nelson een gevaar bal er vanaf. Zit er voor een best cafeterie mag hè. Doe me jorsten nog, dan doe je naar hui. Vanmiddag gezocht aan Shankland de steuren. Die is de Frankie gehoorst. Nesta roemachke. Shankland ga je zo raad. Die dag hessie. Het je gistjag. Het je gistjag gewoon ze hier aan de dooi. Ach, lusjes in hoe die laaf van de wiel. Anna Smith. Kunnen kooltje zo goed mee krijgen met een maal gedaan.
That's the second time you've done that. Leave the ball. No.
10 meters.
Leave the ball alone.
Maar die.
Holding first penalty.
Well, you can see what Mary McDonald was doing, but it's not the right place or the right time, is it really?
As well, okay?
Yeah, I think, I mean, France probably would have put it in the corner regardless of that extra 10 metres, but still, it's just something that you don't want to be getting kind of on the wrong side of the ref, and certainly as a 9, she'll not be the first one, and she'll certainly not be the last.
That kind of thing's in a 9's DNA, isn't it?
I think it should be, yeah.
Yeah, well, just an injury on the far side there. In fact, it's the player, Camille Boudot, who came on, who's now injured. He came on as a replacement. So just in the lull of play, Louise, it's a big, huge sequence of games just to finish the Six Nations anyway, with the game against Wales next week, and then there's this game against Italy, which is a double header. Is that really what Brian Eason is preparing for today?
I think it should. I think it is. Yes. No. I think, you know, the important. The Six Nations is always important to Scotland. Every time you play for Scotland, it's an important match, and the girls know that. They want to go out, they want to put in good performances, they want to kind of get their systems working, they want to put things into practice that they've obviously spoken about and been looking at on the training field. Wales next week, I think, will be interesting because the games between them have been so close over the last 2 or 3 seasons. It's a different mentality sometimes than when you're playing France, so it'll be interesting to see the positives from today, how well they're taken down to Wales next week and put into practice.
And there's plenty at stake next week because effectively it's a wooden spoon match, but you know, the winner will not be bottom of the table.
No, and Wales have not won a game in the competition, and that's not something that we'd have said we've said for the last few seasons. So they will be going all guns blazing to get a result against Scotland.
Line again a Frangich, Maha, Coach meters, Amach. The Koshach Gustaf. Weer een sokker heen, de Frangich naar play het alle shot. Jara Brutter heen, het is hier het lee. Ik zat er een van die eerst. Dus als je het moeilijk krijgt, Agat Sosha. Er doan. Dus er nog Roshen, Giedig maar een hager. Hier Ilzi Evachkes here later. This is almost a textbook carbon copy of the try in the first half, isn't it, Louise? Same tactic.
Absolutely.
And again, it's virtually impossible to defend.
Yeah, as soon as the French jumpers' feet hit the ground, the players are around her, they've secured that ball and they've started that momentum going forward. And as we've said, it's impossible to defend legally. I mean, even looking at the Scotland men's team on Friday evening, they were doing that to Georgia, and Georgia are a very established forward unit, so even when there might be an element of the other team dominating, you'll still see that can be so difficult to stop.
It's maybe something, I know that the rule makers, the lawmakers are actually looking at it already, because it is effectively, you're almost saying to a team, get there, you're going to score. But anyway, we'll see what happens here. Tremulier, the Isht. Oh, er al Shachatora. Het is met de goede chance te voetje horen. Tosje gewoon is ta kerre het zien gaan de Frankie. Schiatjek, Lungjiek, Fichit, Schachtjiek. Well, het in troffen, maar hij got, maar hij kiezen. Het is zomaar hoe het te score. Technically, absolutely spot on there with the try, weren't they? And it's that momentum thing, isn't it? They're all just knit together.
Yeah, it's so smooth, and looking at it, the rate that they were moving forward, it would have been, Scotland just couldn't do anything about that. They just need to forget about that now, focus on their next job.
3 kwartier Gierk in eerst favor de Frangach. Die Marigach is een steile kloeijachke. Toen had er nog aan gehosteerd en zo. Ze gaan natuurlijk iets willen laten wakker voor de skipper. Maar hij had de roei, de liefste weer een bal, de roei van de Vianen zit. Maar dan gaan we zit strak naar begeer. Die aan de nachtelijk kloei rollen is dat er route in het tachers. Je is tegen wat ze gaan, al op. So there's no real need for Scotland to change their team just as a response to that charge of the Light Brigade as they came on there, the 4. Things are going reasonably well, and you'd want to get as much as you can out of the 15 on the park to save something for the last 20 maybe.
Yeah, and I think it's important after being away for so long that you allow the kind of time for units to get used to each other again and actually get their time in and work off each other. So making too many changes is probably not necessary right now.
Conkel y preisio gyloen os yn I gyd twrys is on the worst on Rachel Malcolm, skipper. Chloe Rowley, Chinsua sy'n gael Cain Maga. Sarah Bonner. Cilwch yn y dyr sio. Nes Rowley. John Marachulnik i biarn efo sydd chobwa sydd osgol I dones yr bial o Shankland. Donc y cwyr, ys fwynig at y ben as echtra. You could just sense how Chloe Rowley felt that gap opening there and her dip of the shoulder and she was away.
Yeah, I think that might have been something that could have been mentioned inside at half-time. There's been a few times in the first half that France have maybe folded and gone round the corner at those breakdowns and left their short side a little bit down on numbers, so they kind of identified that pretty quickly there and came down that blind side and put Chloe into a bit of space.
She is Aloyne Maha. Gary has hier in de push schiepig aan de hen. Ja, ik heb omhoog voor de willen kopen dan. Zien we kan zijn naar hoor in de Frank. Ik heb geen zin in de vaark. Kunt er nog van je lana skelden chokken hier gesteken daar. Oh, die dat voor die schachete roate gaan in. Jebal Bunny Karash hier terug. En de Frank heeft al graag kunnen kiezen. Shankland. Rowley. Ja, die Schuel lag. Het voorste nog geval de koel. Parakoper en kalapering en een vatne hoenje van de week was het. Die vast weken stuig, gewoon ik krokuit in het Chinoro shit. Conkel. Rechter het was een water erin, ja gekoel in je goedie. Hollow Chinsua's system de Frange is alleen het hier en zorg je maar. Oh, we zijn zeggen dat we nog big down. It was like the tide coming in there, wasn't it? They just kept coming that big line. It was like a huge line of washing across the field.
And just looked like the running lines and the timing wasn't quite there in those wider channels. So unfortunately, Sarah Bonner running across, Hannah Smith going in behind, and then maybe Megan Gaffney not seeing that ball that was coming in her direction.
Two subs. Oh dear. Now you might need to explain this to us because Christine Belisle coming on there at 18, she's not normally a prop.
I think from I believe she's been kind of working towards that and doing a bit of kind of training up to be more playing in the front row, and I think it's an area where again it's very combative in the games that come up. They need experience, they need kind of players who are in there. So yeah, it gives Christine another option for kind of what she can do and what she can offer the squad. So a big challenge for her going on against this French front five at the moment.
And if I don't mention Cartha Queen's Park and the fact that it's a first cap, I'm in big trouble, so that's got me out of that one safely, hopefully. Now the sub, Tiner de Galapa out of a Fichet. Tiner Kutjach Louise McMillan. Did Gahra skip it?
Come on.
Not sure if that's a permanent replacement, just watching the player going up the tunnel quickly. It was always as Rachel McLaughlin might have been going up for some treatment.
Yeah, I didn't see any particular head knocks or anything. Yeah, it could easily be an HIA, and it's obviously important that that's done quickly. And Louise McMillan, a very able replacement. She is somebody who again's had a lot of experience. She plays at Hillhead with Mary McDonald, so slotting into the back row there will be, very athletic player, and sure will be keen to get going and get her hands on the ball.
Can you take this one? We'll reset the scrum again, please.
The two back rows I mentioned at the start of the game are two of the most powerful units in both teams, and they've had a real ding-dong, haven't they? I mean, it's been eeksy-peeksy. I don't think either set has dominated the other.
No, I think you're right. The balance in the Scotland back row with Jade and Rachel Malcolm, our captain, obviously Rachel McLaughlin, has been excellent. Jade is a natural ball carrier. She does so well to get us across the gain line off scrums or just in open play. And Rachel and McLaughlin, both Rachels, with their support play and their organisation and the areas of the pitch that they get to, they just kind of combine really nicely.
Whoa. Wow. You can see what that means to the Scottish pack.
That's CB's clearly won that, because she's come on and they've just won a penalty in the scrum, so I'd be claiming that one.
Yeah, that's one to Cartha, Queen's Park, and that's enough mentions for Cartha.
I'm sure Molly Wright would want to claim some of that as well.
Oh, sorry to Matt.
Just colour. Right.
Well, shove it in, yeah. Could have goalie right either.
Stay bound on
just fresh legs, fresh energy in the front row there. Just a ring of route in the end of the line, yeah. Oh, het zag er wel nog eens aan de Frankie hier van alles. Dus dat het prisje er van afkoetig. Je laat het in trouwen. Drove you in en is komt zo 3 richt. Caroline Bouchard met je bal.
Tackle!
Klokken daar is broken orange. Ik geloof dat je had de skulige game en is de Frankie. Dit is het eerst. Je jongens hier doen houden. Dit is Hannah Smith, er al Shia zit en dit is de gorste hierin. I think Hannah Smith might have injured herself in the recovery in this tackle here. She had a lot of work to do to get back. Let's just have a look at how she executed. Oh.
Actually looked like Megan got the worst of it. I think Hannah Smith was tracking across really well. Megan kind of felt like she had to hold, so she stepped back in. So ultimately kind of made the tackle, stopped the French attack. But hopefully just a minor knock.
Fantastic wood there in the French. I mean, 1 minute they're down here, next minute they're on the other touchline.
Absolutely.
They've got this ability to switch the game as well.
I think disappointingly that's come from we spoke earlier about Scotland executing the lineouts in the attack in 22 and the attack in half, and that's been the last two that unfortunately, whether it's missed times or just miscommunication, France have turned them over, and then they've had that ability to just attack when Scotland have been, they're attacking a Scotland team that are set to that also attack, so leaves a lot of space, and France have been able to move that ball with the players that they've got in the midfield.
There's an interesting stat for you: 64% possession to Scotland, 36 to France. That won't have appeared too often in the history books.
No, I don't think it will have, and I think, as we said earlier, it's some of the phases of possession from Scotland have been excellent, and they've really worked hard to keep the ball. The reason that's maybe not translated into better territory or the scoreboard is because it's sometimes just been that bit too slow or that bit too narrow, so it either needs to be trying to get a second or third pass in, trying to attack maybe slightly wider, and just move away from those areas of heavy traffic where France are slowing the Scottish ball down.
Is that outside?
Nu is de middag geschiet.
Yes. Outside, yeah.
Middag goedemiddag, getierig. Jullie zijn roeisig, kan rooier vaar, knok roeitierig. Maar ook veel goed gevallen, voor de soes, noors net as, goed net de Frankie hier as hier.
Turn off. No worries.
Nou, maar is dat nog de hikkie krooi gevatte soes. de vaar gezien. Achterige gelatine en Frankie aan de hoogtje getiner. Clara Joyeux, na show klichteraak met jonge de groei, is kutje generig, Jana Rivelin.
Interesting there from France that Rivelin has gone straight to 9, because quite often previously we have seen, you know, we've seen Pauline Bourdon move out to 10, where she's also plays quite a lot of her rugby, and that combination has always been very dangerous. So for that to be a straight swap at 9 today is probably a little bit interesting for those watching.
Chloe Rowley. Gan ik het kriven geta haisach wil kumost. Maar game school is Rowley if any wheel. Konkel. Ligt er Frank de hele de golshiers. De kosten met een goal in Sulemi. We zijn de Frank gele. Ugelijk het er jaren. Tennis te gaan laten, goed ja.
You were fine. You're 17. Roll.
Dus dat de mooi gerecht er had het al likkel. Dus je game ruig. Zijn karama zag Sulemi, zag ik leren kostig met een panneer ham. In terms of the physicality of the game, Louise, it's interesting. I think most of the injuries or the knocks have been taken by the French team. You know, in the breaking of play, Scotland have stood up to the physical challenge remarkably well, I'd say.
Yeah, I think it's obviously as much as, you know, the enforced break has been challenging, there's possibly a benefit in there that players who have needed a break have allowed their bodies to recover. They've been back with Alan McDonald. They've been working really hard on their strength and conditioning, and he'll have got them in good condition coming into this block of games.
Halloween er al troeling er Sulemi is het daar niet zijn verleden had er gaan. Die zie dat nog wel de tiction gele. Oh, maar aangezet dat zou er hockey de eerste bal McCassens. Ja, je naar half dus een hele hoorde hier zieke.
She's on her feet. Yeah. No worries. Good steal. No problem. She just got into touch. So. Yeah, it's that line out. It's that line out. No, she stole it and then she went into touch. That was good steal. It's their ball. You stole it and then got pushed into touch. Oh, time off. That's why you're not here.
She's very entertaining as well, the referee. I have to say, she's managed this game beautifully. I mean, it's a textbook example of how to run a game. But I have to say, I am very impressed with Rachel Shankland's attitude, if nothing else. She's come into this game looking for work and looking to make an impact.
No, absolutely. The point about the referees, I think we see that some of the strongest match officials, their communication with the players and actually being human in the middle of the park it makes such a difference there. You know, they've got an important role to play in the game, and Sarah Cox again demonstrating that really well there. Yeah, Rachel did really well defensively there. It looked like there was going to be a bit of pressure coming down that channel. She managed to turn, get a player to ground, and then set up a kind of a turnover opportunity as it was. Unfortunately, just being kind of carried into touch.
Now, there's an interesting debate here about they can't have any more substitutes, so they need to establish why the last French player went off, because they can't bring any more on. So,
hang on, 2 seconds. Okay, we've got to deal with something here, okay? This is going nowhere until I come back and put time on. Chill for a second.
I think there was a doubt whether one of them was a head injury assessment.
So we just need to confirm how many of those subs that you've already had. Yeah. She's definitely gone off for injury, not for HIA or blood, yeah? Okay, so have they enough subs to put her back on or not?
No, they've used all.
I think what she's saying is that France might have to play with 14.
That's it. So they've used all their replacements. Okay, it's not an HIA. You have confirmed that. Okay, not a problem.
Yeah, and the point that Sarah Cox is making is that had that been an HIA or a blood replacement, as we see now, that shouldn't be sacrificed. A team shouldn't kind of have to make a sacrifice because of that. So they can put a player who's previously been replaced back on. In this occasion, they've used all the replacements. They have used that bench quite early in some kind of wanting to get players on the park. So yeah, it's an opportunity that Scotland have to capitalise on.
For the next 20 plus minutes, France are down to 14 players.
You have used all your substitutions. Okay.
I mean, it might be a yellow card, red card situations. These are all situations that teams practice for. So to say that, you know, they will manage to cover a lot of things with only 14 players on the park. However, that has got to give Scotland an advantage over the next, as you say, 22 minutes in the game.
That's a great pub quiz question for some time in the future that you will know the answer to. Interesting. Eentje nog gereden. Vandaag we zitten tegen hier. Ach, Q. Die dat gemeen de wekker rechter in de reeltje maar ik aan je. Dus kun je met smoeien die vakantie die er alleen de lach gehad. Corona Frankrijk de goede vluchter van de wijn geslacht. Ach, Q. Al vergoed. Le kun je in de waar afgenest. Zo'n 4 minutes. So what's the message to the Scottish team from the bench or the coaches? Run them?
Yeah, I mean,
stretch them?
I think we need to, obviously the big benefit is we need to get over the gain line first and draw some of the French defenders in, because them having 14 players, if 14 players are left on their feet and not being challenged, they'll still cover the pitch. So it needs to be kind of getting over gain line, trying to kind of in that kind of maybe that 10 channel or just off 9, really try and threaten them in those areas, get them to commit, and then think about when we can put in that second pass or play with that bit more width when there will be space there.
And you mentioned they will have trained. I mean, teams train to play one person down, don't they?
I think we have to. In the way things are, and correctly so, with the directives that go to match officials, the high tackle framework, things like that. There are many more occasions now where teams have to see out games without the full complement of players on the park. So how France adapt to that now will be quite interesting.
Is dat allegaal karm ze wie hier geraakt. Er zijn kinderen gehad die de tremulier schofte geloine voor. Het is te weer het lijkt as a hacking. Kaartje wil laten kauwen ja gaan zijn. Ach 4 jaar dit scoren gaan goed de was dan is het smoene hoeft die er zo'n wie kinderen. En je laat hem maar gaan 3 diek. Is pennas de galappen. Misschien de hoe we zeggen ja gewaar afgeschoten, maar er was een game voor ons ploeg.
Just there.
Kan hem ik al op aan het huren. Gaat er weer maar al op het ju. Hoe je mag. Hoe is het zo als je mee aan de parken?
Perfect, thank you very much.
Schön dat het de oren hietje. Al op de 3. Ryan 3 diek. Who's keer diek. Er vark. Dus tussen die maar dus alleen koffer bij zo mag. Molly right. Er doen aan een is te gelappen. Door dat Kramer. Cool. Toen vloggen zitten hoog hier cool. We gaan er wel klooi rollies terug en het terug goed te maken. Er is ook nog te goed zijn. De Cox, de Karst in de mag een pen als ze zit. En gevoel om je kraak door. Kan hem prepikken steeds toch goed pik vatten. Hij chilly. I just thought she might have let that go a bit, but again.
think, I mean, it was probably a slight advantage. It's probably made the decision that it's not really a huge territory gain, and it was still probably about 50-50 in that wide channel, whether, you know, what Scotland would have got from that. But back to the line out, and you know, although maybe not exactly to plan, Christine Belial did really well there, took the ball at the back and made great, kind of used their leg drive, used their strength, got over the gain line and just allowed Scotland that platform to play. Timing wasn't quite right in that backs move, and that's the things that under pressure on a training ground, that would have been working perfectly. Obviously in the heat of the game, little things go a little bit wrong, whether it was the timing of the pass, the timing of the run, but good to see Scotland actually wanting to move that ball off that phase play there.
Unless my memory is deceiving me, I think that's the first penalty for a high tackle, which in the modern game is quite unusual with people tackling around the shoulders. But
yeah, good to see. I mean, for Scotland, I think we are a squad, and always probably have been, that we need to probably put low tackles in. There's, you know, especially against a team as big and powerful as France. So I think that's something that we'll have been getting pushed in training repeatedly for quite a while, regardless of the law changes and directives.
Alappe, fiachen die kormegale njagewarach gehach genesht. Dan is a gekke aan de vriendelijke kou. Zijn er pennaseletje en had die dat goed pikken te impi is schip in de vriend genesht. Schijn natuurlijk die gaat gaan nog aan de eerst. Zullen we willen big decision this in a way. I suspect the wins against them here.
I think for this game, I think we put it in the corner. Every time I say that, we made the opposite decision. I mean,
well, I have to say I would have gone for the corner here because they're one player down. But having said that, if the 3 points are there,
I think that's what I mean about the game. I would. It's difficult. I'm not saying that a Six Nations match doesn't matter, but I think if this is a European qualifier, it would easily have been a kind of take the 3 points, be within 7, and then, you know, you're looking at a one-score game in this kind of opportunity. But then maybe because the last couple of lineouts in that area haven't quite gone to plan, you know, we're making that decision. Let's take the opportunity of points when it's there. So, you know, either decision is the right one. It's a good one for the players. Kind of if they take the chance and knock the 3 over now.
Wel, maar goed is hij zag het. Ja, mag ik Helen Nelson. Toen han je lach os set of zijn kant en dan in de kuje. Oh, get je wrakka. Zijn er wrakka in de goal zo is 3 punten gelappen. Han game erachter. Pikken weg. A game chinook. Two Valafa get the hard task the Alapa Shia a ring 3 year. Fair play, Helen Nelson.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't think the capacity of Helen not making that was ever there, because it was straight in front, very well within her range for such a strong kicker. I think just context the game, it was. I thought they may have chosen the line out over the 3 points in this one.
Oh, so we're going to find the big and fat at Horsha geshoot. A few right at the Lika Law. Leah Bartlett. Konkel het alles door crew hier al haar. Goed je gaan je remel te doen. Hakeem gas in de hal op een eerst dan is me nu zei goed er wordt je gegoed. Gebeurt koeren mag. Zo klikt als je game roeier van af. Het is Penacilla. Er waar. You know, the work on the ground has been tremendous today against a huge pack, a mobile pack. They have worked their socks off, the Scottish pack.
Yeah, we've forced a few turnovers. I think that was Sarah Bonner again in there, just identifying the opportunity. The French support players a little bit slow, and just, as we're saying, getting their hands straight onto the ball and lifting it and pulling it back towards the Scottish side, rather than, you know, not just kind of hands onto the ground first. She was clearly on the ball and attempting to lift it from the French player.
You've got to go for the post. She's come on with the tee. I'm really sorry, she's come on with the tee. You've got to go for posts.
Well, maybe some miscommunication there, where there was a doubt, but the referees called it because the runner came on with the tee. They have to go for it.
Absolutely, that's actually.
It's fine if it was over.
To be honest, it's not dissimilar distance. Obviously, a bit more of an
just
angle.
A bit of
and
an angle.
for Helen being a right-footed kicker,
it's the
better
best
side for her. So
66-15.
Perfect. So the stadium clock is right.
I didn't actually know that was a law, to be honest. So I've learned something today.
Helen Nelson. Oh, die dag goed big courage. Goed big courage. En dan je roi fatte woe, ja. We gaan lees aan de shit geven. Wie kien dacht die had ik hier in en als die goed in Nederlands en die. Voor jou, veel meer te doen maken ze kunnen. Dat is net veel meer een Frank. Die dacht goed maar een shock dus. Ik is een zalig. Kun je wel achter de wie kopen de screw is goed in hier. Ik is shit. Die game is at the end of it again. Howells, a Cheneters Current to go up a Ruyer, Chloe Rowley. Maar Jalantje, Ruyer, nou, Johan, Omerach, gitaar. A rarity, really, on a day like this. It's not bad. I mean, the ball, there will be some moisture on the ball. That it's raining now, I think, again. We've got another shower.
Yeah, just unlucky to kind of, I think she's taken an eye off the ball just slightly there, thinking about maybe what's happening next
move,
and seeing some of that French inside defence coming up, that is going to create a bit of pressure. So just unfortunate, but again, those opportunities just need to hold on to the ball so we can build phases again. It feels like it's got a little bit fractured. France have had a bit more ball, taking those opportunities to give ourselves a platform again to get into the French 22 and hopefully create opportunities to take more points.
You know, at the start of this game, I suppose any of the Scots team and the coaches would have said that, you know, 67, 70 minutes in, we're not out of sight here, we could pull this off. They would have taken that and given it a go.
Absolutely. I mean, coming into this game, neither team have had a huge amount of opportunity. You know, neither team have been playing, and I think we spoke at the start of the match who was going to kind of find their groove a little bit and get into the game, and Scotland have gone through phases better, and France have made a number of, you could say uncharacteristic errors, but Scotland have created that pressure as well. So yeah, I mean, I think they would have taken this position. It's a one-score game.
Yep. Past later is a hike in Duskators the Ganesht.
Feet underneath her, okay? Straight to her knees.
Nog een beetje trainen, ach, je de 10 minuten en ik zie de game zo wie gemaakt trouw met daar hoef. Yeah, another interesting question, which affects the French team probably more now, is the level of fitness after such a long layoff, albeit that some of them may have played, some of them haven't, most of them haven't. That 10 minutes is going to be a tough 10 minutes, particularly if you're a player down.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that although the French league had resumed, there's been a number of their games that have been kind of cancelled or postponed because of the kind of COVID situation in the country and in certain areas of the country. So yeah, this will really challenge the conditioning of the players. They've obviously used their replacements bench, so interesting to see how they manage over the final parts of this game.
Chloe Rowley can't daar huwen zit. Die de dat je het in de maag. De eerst Bruhooks. De storren de middag kunnen gaan. Hello.
Say that again.
You think she'd been phoned or
Because,
something?
I thought your one went straight to her knees. That was it. So that was a picture that I had.
There's maybe just there's no need to chase this really for Scotland's end. They need to be patient really, and wait for a chance.
Yeah, I think.
Look at the handling errors. 2-14.
That's something that
you wouldn't have said that at the start of the game.
No, and taking that with the possession as well, you would you would maybe like to have seen Scotland capitalise on some of those numbers a bit better, and that's why statistics are, you know, they're there. Ultimately, France are still ahead on the scoreboard. I think this important 10 minutes now, we need to get playing in the right areas of the park, as Helen tried to do in that last play, so see where this one takes us now.
Zoals hem aan. Goal in Hannah Smith, Lisa Thompson. Sira Bonner. Glücklich. Is dat de weer niet meer goed in je wil Shankland. Hij kent gelijk aan als je wel naar door nog eens goed maar hij koers het nog een bal leggen. Dus dat doen je maar afgezogen. Oh, die dacht goed bij Gouden in de vark. Chloe Rollier. Kroeg gaan naar de Kloon in Rostag.
Captain.
Achterige gele show.
Who's your pack leader if Helen's at captain? Perfect. Okay, just step over. Hang on. Scotland's come in the mark.
Siobhan Cadigan heel team neer en naast skipper. Shift maker hier Willik, Rachel Malcolm.
More. Say more. Okay, use the ball.
Handian is a vian er vi sorgt maar hij kan al goed han je laten te schachet kan het de doen daar is het sport niet Chloe Rolly Kavilu tol de fark de jevi bal atuni atida Kalu die Italiaan Chris Stewart Hogg. 8 minuten in raken, lekker Lafferson, game zo goed. Oh, wat Richard Shaw, stjagen hem aan. Maar Loos is dat de ballen mag en de Frankig kan er de verhaal. Een schuurt de leentje in Karamashaw. Maar goed is dat het al. Maar goed is dat de bal achter. Stjag, kijk het met daar. Karamille. Hipske de hip shit en de Björn in de vastgloeit. En is dat konkel er wel af. Machen en je meer Shankland van de wijnje te gelappen. Hij scoort er 10. Het is een game er 10 del Kapula. Er is hier gewoon een beetje te gelappen. Maar wordt de verreketje goed aan een wijnje van die geschiet. Richard Shankland. Dus hier scoort aan dat jene naar gelappen. The game has turned completely, and you would have put your mortgage on her 20 metres out there because you could just see what she was going to do.
A space opened up for her because of the work that was done in that midfield. You just, I almost felt previously the game had started going a bit flat. There was a little half break by Chloe, that inside ball to Hannah Smith to get us away, kind of past the gain line, and then build on that. Rachel Shanklin would have just been loving that sight. A clear run in for a debut cap try.
Points to Kunkel there though. Oh, she needs to work on her touchdown.
She got the ball grounded, but actually the most important thing, as we know.
A wee bit of the swallow dive, all that stuff.
There's plenty of time for that.
Kick.
I think back to what you said about Jade there, there was a hint of, because the French defence, had Jade been tackled to ground, she was probably behind all of her support. She did really well to stay strong in that wide channel and then get back on the move and link up with Rachel.
Het gewonnen. 3-2, Helen Nelson ligt daar voor in. Dus kan hem intussen. Gaan je allappen er een goes en je weer skippen de Franken aan het dicht blijven. 13-0.
Game on.
Koik minuten geleden is een Frankiger. Het de kumel aster game schiers en echt. Het Isaac que wil komen als de show. Jonalappe jaravuke van je trainen. Ze wie feiten of ze wie voeren wel en echt. Trí diog.
Wait here.
Isaac na Frangi gyfylad gawn. Nesio wrth dy sianef. Angeles yn fel siocli, ping-pong. Fog iawn gan y ffarc. Cwn Chitterwood. And the blip in the Sula. That's a brilliant kick. Actually,
yeah. You could just see that they're obviously just neither team wanting to play in their own half and trying to kind of put that ball up in the air, trying to force some kind of pressure onto the opponents there, and France finishing that phase is those kicking games off by finding space just down on that side.
I'll tell you one thing, if you look over my left shoulder here, the French coaches are getting very, very agitated. They're in a game. Va tirar mi hin, de shit gaat er wonnie, gaat er skippel goed. Goed gaan de preppen en zo van school. Je gaat zo komers dat de galappen had het toch zeggen te boeien. Veel meer te be vijf gelach. Kunnen we haar zeggen? Je naar komers dat de Frankrijk. Ach ja. You know, Brian Eason spoke at the start of the game about the kicking game had to be good. There's just a couple of the last few kicks from Helen there have been a wee bit scattery. They're going to the wrong people for a start.
Yeah, I think it's just making sure that whether the kick is for distance or whether it's competing for kind of actually giving the Scotland players something to compete for. They've maybe been a little bit flat and just and almost in that kind of middle ground from Helen Nelson. But again, it also comes back to the comms that she's getting. You know, what other options has she got available to her, and the rest of the team organising to make sure that there's an effective kick chase. You know, regardless of where that kick is going.
It's in a situation like this that, I know it's a cliche, but you want your senior players, the more experienced. This team has built up a stack of experience together, but you want your main players like Jade Conkle and that big decision she made to pass or time the pass. With you know, such a big opportunity here, you want them to make the right decisions.
Yeah, and that's something we spoke about previously, just Scotland managing these big moments. There's, you know, Jade and Emma Wassell are both on 43, 44 caps after today, but they're the most capped players in this squad. There's still so many young players that are developing their leadership skills together, so there's a big number on those 30, 40 caps.
Penalty into Galapa Kuyu, the glories amach a shot. The slow in 8 minutes in the rakel. It is a shen kerskilor, Jun va. Penalty.
Bring them all down. Okay. Oh, you're kicking. Sorry, excuse me. I didn't know what you were doing then.
Gelukkig weer in. Wie de show wie jacht er gaan houden. Kunnen we zo gaan met de goes. Davinet Irakal. Hij zag het. Die is zitten middag naar Kuttermach. Ik kan nou zo as a game. Kuttermach ik aan ze wie ach gezondig te draasten. Klikt er een dagen. De goede game zo win ik. Nesta Cora McAlliff and Sean got him a year. So is it a nimel. Sonic Chen verleden Frankrijk die is prep gehorschacht. Je zou alle betanen goed. Maar de Punicacho Chloe Rowley Chiluk of Irville Corrich gibi Niedema. Skis en echt moes na gassen bwol gyda da hwf. Het haast as die hach geheen al lappen. Dus als je het als korm, ja, even baal, ik loos het. Chloe Rowley. Oh, had er een jage hattelers van de dooi, had hoskies, dan ga je het zo als ze jullie. En je wil loos naar Frankrijk, de hele zee. Zo het korm, maar hartstikke heeft gedaan. Rowley het eerst. Chloe Rowley, hij naar hoog. Hij ging maar schuwelijk, had farning gas in de dahuuf. Als je ze winnen voor je chicken, rakel. Stoken naar Vriesje is het goed. Ja, goede tunje aan de jekin. Een norring hebben we gloos het vastgekleurd een pennas infuse. Vind je het krijgen goed maar leren gloch getolkt jarak de raaste. Hanest naar Vriesje is het goed, maar hij pennas even aan. Oh, en had er zekerlijk zo'n week jongen. Ga je heen. En we kunnen je geloor te skippen halen. Well, it's difficult to summarize that. They sailed for the draw. You can see the sense they were very deep in their own half. It would have been, imagine if it had gone wrong. On balance, that was probably a good decision.
Yeah, I think so. And that's when it comes to those crucial moments. The leaders stepping up and making those decisions. Helen Nelson took responsibility there and decided that they were going to close it out there. And I think, coming back to what we'd said, 13-all against France. If that had been discussed, previously, I think there would have been kind of a surprise in some elements. I think the players believe that they could do that, but for them to kind of put the pressure on France today. France, a lot of uncharacteristic errors, you have to say, but ultimately you can only play the team in front of you. Scotland have done that, and they've managed that game in spells really, really well.